Hi everyone, it's Sloan Rhodes here with your spiritual guidance for the week of December 8th, 2019. I hope everyone is doing well. Today I'm going to be drawing from the Sacred Rebels deck by Alana Fairchild. One card for the week of December 8th, 2019. I did just post a video for the weekend, so if you haven't seen that yet, you can check that out. Just to remind you that all of my video readings are available on the audio podcast, so you can listen to them as well as watch them here on YouTube. Okay, cards are slipping. In the world, not of the world. Number 34. It's under the deck. Shock of the new. Well, okay, so we've talked a lot about, in the last few weekly spiritual guidance videos, metamorphosis, transformation, change. This is another number 7, 34, 3 plus 4 equals 7. It's kind of slower moving energy as things shift, right? And we also have shock of the new. Now, when I say slower moving energy, it doesn't necessarily mean that events are slowing down around you. You may have had some, rather big things occur with that shock of the new. But what the slower moving energy is around the metamorphosis, integrating the changes. Last week I talked, or was it the weekend energy? I can't remember, but there was the Eight of Cups energy, and she was wearing like an animal skin around her, a lion skin. And I talked about this idea of putting on a new coat, putting on a new form, trying it out. So, and the Eight of Cups indicating a journey, an undertaking. So there has been this kind of movement towards change, right? But what often occurs is that things are changing in our environment in ways that push us into a spiritual journey or a transformative period. And that often is what is the slower moving energy, once again, so that we can integrate, understand. So we kind of set it before we embark on our sort of new way of being, as I mentioned in my last reading. I think it was for the weekend reading. So that's why I talk about this slower moving energy. You may be like, what are you talking about? Everything's been crashing down around me. We have the shock of the new here. That wasn't fat. That wasn't slow moving. But what is slower moving is the way in which you are changing your reactions, responses, and way of being in the world. And with this card, the text of this card, in the world, not of the world, it is about taking that observer quality, looking at what is going on around you, looking at yourself with a little bit of a gap, creating sort of a spaciousness around it, having a more capacious sort of attitude about life, so there's more movement around everything. In fact, you even see this here. There's this kind of swirling energy around her with all of these fish. Maybe salmon. I'm not an expert on fish. Could be salmon. And this swirling energy is kind of what I'm talking about. Like, don't get locked into an old way of being or a new way of being. You're in this sort of metamorphosis, this transformational period here with the number 7. That's what's changing so slowly, seemingly, while events around you may be quite different. And again, it may have been that something occurred that kind of shook you to your core or caused you to have to go deep. And as you went deep, your heart opened, allowing more light in. You begin to emanate more light out, and that slows things down because everything has to kind of catch up to the lighter energy, and you have to kind of shed the denser energies. I hope that makes sense. For some of you it will. For others of you, you might have an intuitive, know what I'm talking about intuitively, but not yet a grounded experience of it. But you will, at the right time for you. Okay, so what else do I want to say about this card? This, I think we've talked about this a lot, and a lot of spiritual teachers talk about it, the awakening. Here she is awakening to a new life. And she's naked, right? So she's not coming into this new life with her old clothes. it's in a more sort of vulnerable, nascent state. So during this week, let's just ground it in the practical. During this week, looking at the text of the card, in the world, not of the world, do the best that you can throughout the week to take a breath throughout your day, or when you are having a response to something or feeling the need to react to something, take a little bit of a break and imagine some air around the person or the situation you're in, or breeze blowing through, so you don't get so locked down into the older patterns. There's an opportunity here to have that observer quality, to have it be able to take a step outside of yourself from, let's say, a more expanded sense of who you are, whose you are, and as you do that, there are more opportunities to respond or even to react in ways that feel more fluid, less ingrained in older behaviors, patterns, all of that. Shock of the new. Again, this isn't under the deck, underlying energy, so it may be that something has occurred fairly recently that kind of shook you, that changed in your life. Could have been the last few months, could have been last week. I'm guessing it was a little more, about a little longer period than that, because we have all that slow-moving energy that we've all been working with over the last few months here with these readings. So you're still adjusting. That's okay. Sometimes, again, it's about the integration. When something new occurs, whether it's actually in our physical world or just kind of an epiphany within, an awakening, a sudden awakening, it breaks down the persona. It breaks down our egoic conditioning of who we think we are or how we think things should be. I'm supposed to be a certain way. I'm supposed to live in a certain place. I'm supposed to look a certain way. I'm supposed to have a certain degree of health or wealth, whatever it may be. And when something occurs, again, either within or usually often with the shock of the new, it's kind of something in our external, it kind of shakes us to our core. And we begin to transform and integrate the new changes out of a place of surrender, because we don't necessarily have a lot of control ever, actually, but seemingly whatever this shock of the new is often something that seems like we can't seem to shift with our will. We have to kind of surrender to it, and as we surrender, become more accepting. That's the slower moving energy, because many times we have resistance to the new, which causes the suffering. But then we have to surrender, we accept it, we can create some space around it, witness it, observe it from a little bit of an outsider perspective, outside of ourselves, taking a step back outside of yourself to view yourself in the situation from a more loving place without the egoic attachments, agendas, expectations. That creates breath around it. That creates more of that swirling energy that it does allow for transformation to happen more fluidly, more quickly, without the resistance. But again, you can't rush it either, because integration has to happen regardless, and everyone will integrate new understandings and experiences and energies at their time frame that's just right for their soul's growth. So anyway, I hope that you find that helpful. It's rather an intense time for many people, for most people actually, on some level, and keep going back to your heart. Keep reminding yourself that you love you. Do your best to take a step outside of yourself with a situation. Take that breath in practical terms. Someone's triggering you, or you're feeling a desperate sense of whatever the ego may try to distract you with. And I do have that video. I'll put a link here. Physical feelings of anxiety, lack, shame, all of that. It arises within us, and then we have that corresponding thought structure that goes with it, and then we're locked in suddenly in a dark place. So you can watch that video if that resonates. But taking a step back, take some breath. Take a breath. Do your best to detach in little ways, or even in big ways if you can. But if you can't, in the moment, afterwards, begin to ask some questions around it. Begin to remind yourself that you love you no matter what's occurring, that you're safe, you're taken care of always as an eternal soul. Whatever you can to comfort yourself. Some rose tea or chamomile tea, rose quartz at your heart chakra, hot water bottle, or some kind of warmth, a snuggly blanket. All of this can remind us that we are cared for as we care for ourselves. So anyway, I hope that you find that helpful. I wish everyone so much love and kindness towards self, and kindness towards others as well. And I will see you on the next video or over at the podcast, where you can listen to all of these recordings rather than having to sit and watch a video. So much love to you all.